The airport breathed around him, rolling suitcases rattling like distant thunder, announcements echoing off glass and steel, strangers brushing past without seeing. He stood still in the current, eyes locked on his phone, jaw tight, mind buried in margins and deadlines. Then a small tug broke through the noise. Fingers warm and unsure closed around his sleeve. "Are you lost too, mister?" The voice was soft but carried weight, like it had practiced being brave. He looked down, irritation ready on his tongue, and it vanished the moment he met her eyes. Too blue, too open, the kind that hadn't learned yet how the world looks away. His chest tightened, an unfamiliar pressure, as if something long buried had shifted. For a second he forgot where he was, forgot who he was supposed to be. The terminal lights reflected in her gaze. And in that pause between who he pretended to be and who he was, he felt exposed, seen and suddenly dangerously unsure of his footing. He straightened instinctively, the word no already forming, polished and automatic, the kind of answer that closed doors and ended conversations. Men like him were never lost. His life was mapped in calendars and contracts, every minute owned, every outcome planned. But the word stalled when his eyes drifted past her face. The airport stretched behind her in endless motion. Legs, coats, wheels, urgency. And she stood alone in the middle of it, impossibly small. He noticed the way her fingers worried the strap of her backpack, how it slid down one shoulder no matter how many times she nudged it back. A faint tremor ran through her arm, betraying the courage in her voice. Something in his chest gave way. A quiet crack he felt more than heard. He saw himself reflected in the glass walls, tall, composed, untouchable. And for the first time, the image felt like a lie. He exhaled, slow and unguarded, and met her gaze again. "Maybe," he said, the word rough, honest, and terrifying. As it left his mouth, the world seemed to tilt, as if admitting that single doubt had shifted the ground beneath both of them. Her smile came too fast, like it had been waiting for permission. Relief washed over her small face, softening the careful bravery she'd been holding together. "My mommy went to get coffee," she said, almost apologetically, as if explaining why she was allowed to exist alone in such a big, loud place. Her voice dropped on the last word. She lifted her hand and pointed somewhere behind him, toward a blur of signs and moving bodies, but her finger hesitated midair, unsure. The airport didn't feel friendly anymore. It felt endless. She shifted her weight from one foot to the other, the green backpack slipping down her shoulder again. She pushed it back up, a practiced motion, like she'd already done it too many times today. She said she'd be quick, she added, eyes darting toward the cafe sign glowing in the distance. The departure board above them clacked and flipped, letters changing with mechanical indifference. Cities appeared, vanished. Her eyes followed the movement, confusion creeping in. He saw the moment her confidence thinned, the exact second the world stopped making sense. People rushed past them, coats brushing close, a suitcase wheel clipping the edge of his shoe. Someone bumped her shoulder lightly without noticing. She stiffened. He felt it immediately, a jolt of alarm that shot straight through him. Without thinking, he stepped closer, angling his body between her and the stream of strangers. The decision was instinctive, protective, unfamiliar. He hadn't protected anyone in years. Her hand tightened around her backpack strap, knuckles paling. She swallowed hard. "She'll come back," she said. But now it sounded less like certainty and more like hope she needed him to share. Fear flickered across her face, quick, bright, and gone, but it left a mark on him. His chest tightened, breath shallow. This wasn't a problem with a solution he could buy or schedule. This was time moving forward without permission. He scanned the crowd, suddenly alert, heart beating faster than it ever did in boardrooms or negotiations. Every passing woman became a question. Every second stretched, and in the middle of the noise and motion, he realized something unsettling and undeniable. If her mother didn't return soon, this moment would become something else entirely, and he was already too involved to walk away. The announcement cut through the air with a sharp electronic chime, a voice echoing off the high glass ceiling, too loud and too sudden. The girl flinched, shoulders rising, eyes widening as if the sound might separate her from the last place she remembered her mother standing. Around them, the crowd shifted in response, rolling forward in waves. Boarding groups called, feet quickening, impatience thickening the air. He felt the pressure of it immediately, time compressing, space shrinking. He crouched down so they were eye to eye, ignoring the crease it would leave in his trousers, ignoring the version of himself that would have cared. "What's your name?" he asked gently, carefully, as if the wrong tone might break her. His voice surprised him, steady, warm. Nothing like the clipped authority he used every day. She told him the name soft but clear, and he repeated it once, anchoring it in his mind like something valuable. She looked at him expectantly, waiting. He hesitated, then gave her his first name only, saying it felt strange, stripped of titles and power, naked in a way that made his chest tighten. Her face relaxed when she heard it, as if names themselves were proof that people didn't disappear. Another surge of travelers swept past, dragging carry-ons, shoulders brushing close. He instinctively shifted again, placing a hand out, not touching her, just there, a barrier. His heart pounded, louder than the announcement still echoing overhead. He scanned faces, searching for panic, recognition, anything. Every woman with a coffee cup made his pulse jump. Every second without her mother stretched thin and dangerous. The girl glanced up at him, lower lip trembling despite her effort to hold it still. He saw the fear trying to surface, the tears threatening behind her eyes. "She knows where I am," she whispered, more to herself than to him. He nodded, though uncertainty clawed at his chest. He felt the weight of responsibility settle fully now, heavy and undeniable. In that moment, surrounded by thousands of strangers, he understood something clearly until her mother returned. This child was his world, and he would not let it fall apart. Minutes dragged like hours. The flow of people thinned, then surged again, the airport breathing in uneasy rhythms. He checked the time once, then forced himself to stop, knowing it would only sharpen the edge of panic. The girl's shoulders sagged, the effort of staying brave finally wearing her down. Her fingers had gone cold. Without thinking, he slipped off his suit jacket. The fabric was still warm from his body, heavy, expensive, carrying the faint scent of cologne and long days. He draped it around her carefully, like it mattered where it touched her. She looked up at him in surprise, then clutched the lapel with both hands, wrapping herself inside it. The weight seemed to calm her, anchoring her to something solid. "It's big," she said softly. He almost smiled. "It's okay," he replied. "You can borrow it." The words felt permanent in a way that startled him. "We'll find her," he added, choosing the sentence deliberately, like a promise he intended to keep. Saying it out loud steadied him too. He scanned the crowd again, eyes sharp now, noticing details he would normally dismiss. The nervous woman pacing near the cafe, the tired mother dragging a toddler, the way every face held its own story of urgency. His phone vibrated in his pocket once, twice. He knew the names, lighting up the screen without looking. Deadlines, meetings, control. He silenced it. The girl leaned slightly closer, her small shoulder brushing his leg through the fabric of the jacket. The contact sent a jolt through him, unexpected and grounding. He felt the responsibility deepen, settle into his bones. Time kept moving forward, indifferent and relentless, but he stayed where he was, holding space, realizing with quiet clarity that for the first time in years, he wasn't measuring what this moment would cost him, only what it would mean if he failed. They moved together through the terminal, not rushing, but not slow either, threading through bodies, wheels, impatience. He kept his hand low and open, close enough that she could reach it if the crowd pressed too hard. Sometimes she did. Each time her fingers wrapped around his, small and trusting. Something tightened painfully in his chest. He asked a nearby security guard, voice calm despite the pulse hammering in his ears. The guard shook his head but pointed them toward the information desk. Another, maybe. Another stretch of time. They stopped near a cafe, steam rising from machines, the smell of coffee thick and almost mocking. Her eyes scanned every woman holding a cup. Each time hope flared, it died a second later. He felt every rise and fall like it was happening inside him. He knelt again, steadying her shoulders gently. "We're doing the right thing," he said, more for himself than for her. She nodded, but her eyes were glassy now, tears threatening to spill if she blinked too hard. His phone buzzed again, longer this time, insistent. He didn't look. He turned it face down in his palm, then slipped it into his pocket, severing the last thread tying him to the life he'd walked in with. The noise of the airport faded slightly, replaced by a sharp, focused awareness. This mattered. This was real. At the information desk, he spoke clearly, giving her name, her description, his voice steady and certain. The woman behind the counter nodded, already reaching for a microphone. The girl squeezed his hand tighter as the announcement echoed through the terminal. Her breathing quickened. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "You're not alone," he said. And for the first time since this began, He realized he wasn't talking only to her. Time stretched into something heavy and unfamiliar. The announcement repeated once, then again, each time echoing farther than the last, dissolving into the high ceiling. The girl stood very still now, as if moving might make the moment worse. Her grip on his hand was firm, almost desperate. He could feel her pulse through her fingers, fast and uneven. Around them, life continued without pause. Boarding passes scanned, laughter breaking out near a gate, a child crying somewhere far away, but none of it felt real. Everything narrowed to waiting. Then he saw her. At first, it was only movement. A woman pushing through the crowd with too much urgency, hair loose, eyes scanning wildly. Then panic registered on her face, raw and unmistakable. She called a name, breathless, breaking, the sound slicing clean through the noise. The girl stiffened, hope and fear colliding in her chest. He felt it in the way her fingers tightened painfully around his. "Mama!" The word left her like a question and a prayer. The woman turned. Their eyes locked. For a heartbeat, nothing else existed. Then the woman ran. The girl pulled free from his hand and launched forward. The suit jacket slipping from her shoulders and falling to the floor, forgotten. He watched her disappear into her mother's arms. The collision messy and perfect. Laughter and sobs tangled together. The woman dropped to her knees, clutching her child like she might vanish again, whispering apologies over and over. The sound hit him harder than he expected. His chest ached. He picked up the jacket slowly, the fabric suddenly heavy again, and stood there as the world rushed back in. Relief washed over him in a wave so strong his legs felt weak. He hadn't realized how tightly he'd been holding himself together until that moment, until it was safe to let go. The mother looked up at him, eyes red, face still shaking from the aftershock of fear. She stood holding her daughter close, one arm wrapped tight as if the world might try to take her again. "Thank you," she said, the words tumbling out fast and uneven. "Thank you so much." I only turned away for a minute. He nodded, unsure what to do with the gratitude, unsure where to put his hands, his gaze. The moment felt too intimate for a stranger, yet bound by something unspoken they now shared. The girl peeked out from her mother's shoulder, cheeks flushed, hair messy, eyes bright again. She searched for him until she found his face. A small, knowing smile curved her lips. "You weren't lost after all," she said, as if stating a fact she'd just figured out. The words landed softly but stayed. He tried to respond, but nothing came. They turned to leave, blending back into the current of travelers. He watched them go, the green backpack bouncing, the mother's hand gripping it now, protective and sure. The noise of the airport returned in full. Announcements, footsteps, rolling luggage, but something inside him remained still. He slipped his phone from his pocket. Missed calls filled the screen. For once, they didn't pull at him. He stood there longer than necessary, breathing, letting the moment settle. He realized the ache in his chest wasn't sadness, it was recognition. He had been lost long before the girl asked the question. And in helping her find her way back, he had quietly, unexpectedly, begun to find his own.